Hi, my name is Mars Puyan from GBC Live. Today we have Poseidon Hall, managing partner of XCapital. And he's going to let us know what is the craziness of blockchain in the world, in USA, in China, and other parts of the world. So, Poseidon, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I know that you had a long trip to China and you came here, and we could catch you finally and having you in our studio and talking to you about the craziness which is happening in China and out of China about blockchain. So why not giving us kind of a brief introduction of yourself and your company and so on?
Sure. So hello, my name is Poseidon, and I used to work at MIT Media Lab, San Diego Zoo Global, and Microsoft Research Asia. My previous experience are all more about FCI, human-computer interaction.
Right.
And I got to get involved in the blockchain, starting as a trader, actually. So from February to September 8th of last year,
right,
I spent 6 months, build up, develop, optimize, and improve a trade bot that later on turns out to be 200x return.
Wow.
And that return actually derived and became the initial fund of our token fund.
That's perfect.
So fast forward 6 quarters, 5 to 6 quarters till now, we become a blockchain incubator.
Blockchain incubator.
We are currently in the process of renaming, rebranding from XCapital to XLab.
Yeah.
Because we found that most of the projects we have recently invested come in from academic research background. And we focus on infrastructure, protocol levels, tokens. So behind the XLab, there is a token fund and a hedge fund, which is currently in research phase nowadays. Yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. So how many like companies or startups you gotta have for each batch that you are going to have?
Okay. So the XLab is going to launch its first batch of incubated blockchain startups,
Nice.
starting from next January to next June. And we are going to select 8 startups from worldwide. We have been sourcing, analyzing more than 100 startups. And I think almost half of them, 3 to 4 startups, is confirmed to be incubated by us back in San Francisco or Seattle.
Nice. So later on we go on based on which companies. And now you're focusing on what kind of technologies and so on you're focusing on. Now we want to talk about the trend of blockchain in USA and in China, and the kind of comparison between USA and China, what is the difference and so on. So as we are in China, probably most of our viewers, they know about the situation, blockchain, of this craziness in China. We want to know about USA, how it is, and what is the difference between the trend of blockchain there and here.
Okay. I will probably start from categorizing the time frame difference.
Yeah.
Like last year that I've done a data crawling from CoinMarketCap and those ICO rating websites such as ICO Drop, ICO Bench. And I found out that last year itself, the ICOs that I could search online is 880 startups in total. And the amazing and craziness here is that, have you ever guessed what would be your return if you blind invest on all the ICOs last year? Given the constraint, the only constraint that I set, 600 of them, slightly more than 600 of them, valuation becomes 0 because they didn't end up listed on exchange by end of last year. What would be your return if you blind invest on all of them?
Well, I have no idea. Well, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times.
Okay,
But
it's
this is a bit.
yeah, it's actually 1,320%, which is like 13.2x.
That's crazy.
So the dumbest decision, but the smart, not the smart.
I think it was about momentum, the timing. Is it? Yeah?
Yeah.
But it's not happening anymore again, I think.
My personal opinion is that
kind of
it might
bubble.
still happen to be positive return if you blind invest on all the ICO for this year. It is projected to have at least more than 2,500 ICOs coming up this year, because the ICOs launch in January to April of 2018.
Yeah.
That's already more than the 880
Wow.
ICO last year.
So do you have any statistics about the average of return from like 2018, I mean early till here, I mean till this date?
Okay.
Do you have any?
You mean in the overall market?
Overall market,
okay.
yeah.
So for the overall market, I don't tend to give out any specific number.
Yeah, but it's kind of rough.
But I think it is still going to be positive.
Yeah.
If you blind invest, just like put in one chip on the entire 2,000 something Rolex.
Really?
But next year, I believe it's going to be negative.
Negative.
With the pattern that some investors already know, got to learn the statistics of last year. Mm-hmm. If you blind invest, the dumbest decision leads to a best investment of 2017 last year, which means you can earn way more than invest in equity startups or real estate. If you blind invest on, say, today Mars come up to me saying that, oh, hey Poseidon, do you know I'm doing an ICO these days? Then I'll just blind invest on you. That is the scenario for last year. But for this year, we are having a very significant heavy hat effect, which means for us, XCapital or XLab, we are only going to invest probably 20 to 30 startups.
Which is not a high numbers.
Yeah, which means probably we are going to invest 1 out of 100 startups we analyze. For each month, we will read around 50 to 100 white papers. Yeah. But in the end, every month, we're probably just going to invest 1 or 2.
So do you have any specific focus on which areas? Like, let's say blockchain in healthcare, blockchain in, I don't know, AI, blockchain in social media, or blockchain. Do you have any specific focus?
So that is probably a way of categorizing blockchain tokens in terms of industry. That is more high level in terms of platform, service, or DApps. But we are on the other side of the spectrum, which is investing a low level infrastructure or protocol level tokens actually. Our belief and some other token founds in the United States are trying to catch 1 or 2 Google of the blockchain industry in 2 years from now. I believe 2 years from now, when you look back in 2017, 2018, you will find out at that point, there might converge into more solidated, say, iOS, Android, Windows in the blockchain industry. Wow. Maybe it isn't Ethereum's. Maybe it isn't the current player. Maybe the biggest player hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You believe that there's a potential that they're going to be a kind of platform bigger than those platforms that you mentioned, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
There might be like Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for very low-level infrastructure protocols, we are analyzing based on 4 different dimensions. There might be more behind, but we look into throughput, TPS, transaction speed, scalability, in terms of like their supernode system from one of the projects we recently invested, and their security, and last but not least, the gas price, which means transaction cost. That would determine the standards of the DApps ecosystem, we think. For example, for DGEMs, nowadays, the biggest bottleneck is that Ethereum might not be that fast.
Yeah, because it takes time. Yeah. So and any consideration about like social media, and crowdfunding, and like, or we want to get to.
Yeah. That might be a broad question. But how we see social media's role in blockchain is probably looking towards the dimension of some existing business. Maybe it comes from like traditional or current big social media players, or maybe they turn from an advertising company, a media company like yours. If they can find a sweet spot, or like a position which traditional user behaviors didn't get a chance to be quantified.
Yeah.
Their contributions aren't be given any rewards. And
It's a bit difficult.
that is actually the one that we might be interested in.
Yeah.
So one of the startups we invest are like using mobile browser to track users of Facebook ads and Google ads in terms of their conversions from views to clicks to actions such as purchasing, and then sending tokens to users to quantify their contributions in the advertising process using tokens. That is one of the example that we might look into. Yeah.
That's nice. So let's get back to this question. How is it the trend of like blockchain in China and in USA? How is it? Is there any difference, or is it the same, or there are different vibes, or different?
Okay, so for United States, I could only speak in terms of Bay Area, San Francisco, West Coast in general. Now there is a huge battle on the infrastructure, public chains, because the most recent 3 projects we invest are faculties from Cornell, faculties from MIT, faculties from Stanford.
They are more in a technical level. I mean, deep in tech.
Yeah, so they probably step into the era of blockchain. They didn't come from nowhere. They come from a traditional computer networks or cryptography background.
Yeah.
They have been doing cryptography research, have been continuing published papers over the past 10 to 20 years. And those are the players we have deep belief in terms of the lowest level, such as the OS level in the internet industry. But for China, I would say maybe I have some bias, but from all the other investors, players out there, I feel like they are more interested in cryptocurrency and trading
Than the technology and the infrastructure.
Than the underlying
blockchain
infrastructure, actually.
So that's a nice point. So can we say they're mostly thinking about the money, how we say, earning, that selling point that this technology has, that it's all about investment perspective, it has returns a lot, that in China they're more focusing on how to make money out of it now, as you said, for trading and so on. But there in like Bay Area, like in San Francisco, they're just getting deeper into the technology itself, and which is giving a kind of, how we say, deeper control and deeper, how we say, performance in this area of the technology. Yeah. So here is more about money making.
So one good example for a comparison would be like back in Bay Area, I have attended several meetups, workshops, or even reading groups hosted by Stanford Bitcoin Group students.
Yeah.
And every single week we'll just read a research paper, say for example, selfish mining, in the case of Bitman.
Yeah.
And then we spend 90 to 120 minutes to discuss and then debate. It is the audience usually is less than 10 people, and maybe half of them are students.
Yeah.
We are talking deeply into the technical architecture, computing architecture from a blockchain perspective in this field. A similar event that could happen in China would be a meetup for an ICO pitch or a fundraising dinner, and then there might
Training, sort of at the back.
Yeah, and then those are the hype currently in China.
Is happening.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's go from another perspective. Let's say that as we mention, as you mentioned, that there are a lot of projects are coming, like more than 2,000 projects, 2,000 ICOs are coming out. And let's say that if there is a good project with a good product, with a good vision and so on, but if they don't have enough exposure, if they don't have enough awareness, or let's say if they don't talk about their project, if they don't have enough exposure, do you think that they're going to be successful? Have we had any project that they had all this beautiful product, awesome product, team and so on, but they didn't have a good marketing or good exposure and they went to failure?
Went to failure. I wouldn't define they are
Or
success or failure at
Or
this
even
point.
their ICO didn't go well, or they didn't have a good launch of ICO.
Yeah, there are definitely some cases like this. I personally think that the top 3 successful factors for an ICO in terms of their token sale or fundraising, this milestone, would be, first of all, their technical competency and barriers. Secondly, business model or tokenization models, say even including the incentive model more specifically.
Yeah.
The third one would be the media exposure, marketing, PR in general, which doesn't mean that a successful team needs to incorporate all those 3 factors. There is one team that we invest earlier this year. They are the first one that we found out that they are not allocating any tokens in exchange listing, in marketing, in social media community management. They haven't listed on exchange, but what I'm guessing is they probably wouldn't find a market-making team to help them manage the price and token value after listing. They might go below water when they get listed next year. But I believe a lot of token funds in the United States are thinking a more long-term perspective. When we invest in this token startups, we're thinking about holding for at least 2 to 4 years. That might be also a slight difference in terms of determining whether this startup is success or not. Because from a lot of token found that we met, or a lot of projects, there's one ICO project. I told them upfront that we are willing to sign a 2-year locked up for us as a seed round or a strategic institutional investor.
Yeah.
And that startups back off a little bit by saying that, we haven't met any investor, token found in China, willing to sign a 2 years
Long-term one. Sort of.
locked up period.
Yeah,
so they themselves are still pending and a little bit afraid. The founder told me that we might not even know where we would be 2 years later. But we think of ICO as a way of doing, another alternative way of doing fundraising. It doesn't mean you are a success if you can raise more than $100 million in your token sale. What's more important is the product roadmap and delivery after the token sale.
After the token sale.
Yeah.
So let's say there are a lot of startups or a lot of blockchain companies that they want to have their ICOs and so on. Some of them, they have products. Sort of, they're working on the product. And some of them, they don't have a product. They're just talking about the idea, what's going to happen, how it's going to be, and so on. Which one do you go more for it? Because I heard a different story in China. Well, I want to see that from the area that you're coming from, which is in USA, what is the perspective? Because in China, they're saying that if you don't have your product, you give a better vision, bigger vision, and so on, and they might come into your project because they might think that they can gain more. But if you have your product, and if they see your product, and then they might think that, it's
lower
not going to lower their expectation. I mean, from marketing perspective and also fundraising perspective, This is kind of the kind of things that we have in China. That they say if you don't have your product, might be even better in a private sales level that you have. What do you think about that?
I think there is no a better way, but there is one example that a team's valuation it's super high, and we invest 5,000 Ethereums, and that team without them having any product. But they have tons of research paper as their foundations. And based on the experience of the founders, we can determine that if they do have a right motivation after the fundraising, after the token sale, if they really focus on developing their product, we are interested in advising and then bear with them for another 4 years.
Nice. So it seems that the team and the product, these two, they're much more important than the other factors.
So we have a matrix of 6 criteria or investment thesis in terms of determine a binary decision whether we want to invest or not in a startup. And the first one would be the team background, formation, and their track records, maybe individually. Especially we want to know whether the technical team experience and capacity in delivering the product. The case that we are most afraid of are not those kind of scam ICO that just come from nowhere and try to raise money using ICO.
And then they disappear.
Yeah, those teams, we can easily avoid that because for all the 36 tokens we have invested, we make sure we met not only the founders, but also the technical team, showing them a lot of technical questions even before we invest them. But the case we are most afraid of are those ICO or blockchain startups. They don't know how much obstacles they are in the blockchain infrastructure that eventually might lead to a failure in terms of technical feasibility. And so to give a right answer, concrete answer in terms of whether team and product is the most important criteria, yes, it is our first and second criteria. The first criteria is still team background, track records. The second is their product roadmap and feasibility.
So beside of these two, like the tokenization, like let's say, and the economy of the token, how important it is. Let's say there's a startup and they have a good team and they have a good product, but the tokenization policy or the economy of the token is not as easy. It should be good. So you think that you can like advise them and you can lead them in a way that they can have a better policy and so on?
Yeah, as we have some researchers in our team that comes from a macroeconomics background or mathematical model background. We are advising a lot of startups. Those we invest first and then help them to redefine, recalculate the best token economics. That includes token allocation and token distribution. In terms of the token distribution, I think one of the best example, I wouldn't mention the name of the startup, but they come of having, say, first round, second round, and third round private pre-sale. First of all, it's only open for institutional investors rather than individuals. Secondly, they are only open for private sale rather than public sale because of the SEC legal compliance regulation in the United States. The third one, difference or point worth mentioning is they're only accepting smart money, which means those investors who can bring in strategic resource to invest. No matter how rich you are, they can still reject you by signing the SAFE. And the token economics is like 50% of the total token supply are being used on the token cell. That has 1%, 4%, and 10%. For round one, the fund is going to be allocated to build the blockchain infrastructure. Second round is going to be used in DApp's ecosystem. The third round, the fund of 10% of the total tokens is going to be used to build up the miners or developers community.
Nice.
And the valuation for each round is like 10x difference. But the token price is like 5x different.
Nice.
Which means if you happen to be one of the institutional investors who invest in their second round, from your expectation and psychology, although it is 5x more expensive compared with the first round institutional investors, but it is 5x more cheaper than the third round. And the locked up period also is different. Just for an example, maybe like 24 months, 14 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
So think of it from an investor perspective. They are doing, first of all, price discrimination, and they are also trying to diversify their targeted institutional investors to make every round of investors happy to a certain level. Say, maybe for us, we are those kind of institutional investors who are only interested in investing in blockchain infrastructure. Will definitely come in the first round. We don't mind being locked up 2 years. Let's say maybe your token fund is more interested in the DApp's ecosystem. You might invest in the second round in exchange with a shorter locked up period. And the price is still 2x undervalued.
So what about legal aspects? Like in China, they're saying, you know what, we don't need contract and so on. We just go based on talk and so on. And that is true. Like, I've seen a lot. So how it is there? I mean,
in the United States, because
is there any contract if those ICOs, they just, those companies or startups, they disappear after the ICO, or even they don't they are not committed on what they mention in white paper and so on. Is there any kind of enforcement that legally we go after them and so on? How it is there?
Yeah, first of all, I guess some of the cases you mentioned about tokenized startups are not signing that legal contract.
Yeah.
It's probably because some of them know that even if you sign it, it is not purely highly regulated in China.
And it's
so
not
that
enforceable.
might not be very enforceable.
Yeah.
But in the United States, we have SEC currently classifying most of the tokens as security tokens. You need to follow the compliance and file a lot of paperwork in order to do public token sale. And most of the case, even if they're US-based blockchain startups, they might try to get funds, no matter from private sale or public sale, from an offshore company. So there's a trend that a lot of token funds like us are registering investment vehicle and the legal entity in Singapore, Cayman Island.
Yeah. Nice. So from like investment perspective, like, is it important for you where that startup coming from? I mean, if a startup, that blockchain company is coming from China, Korea, Singapore, or is coming from, I don't know, Dubai, or is in USA? Do you have any? Is it important, or you just consider about the product or the team and?
Okay, so we have read over 500 white papers.
Yeah.
We have invested 36 infrastructure, the entire spectrum of the whole different categories of tokens.
Yeah.
The experience we derive still implies or inform us that most of them are US based, actually.
Because of communication that you might have is easier.
Yeah, maybe a little bit biased because most of our deal sourcing happened from local events such as BlockChain Connect conference back in June in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But another stuff that we need to take into consideration would be how healthy the blockchain ecosystem is
Yeah.
in this country or in this city. When investors exchange tends to have a more short-term perspective, that would lead blockchain startups to also design their token economics and their product roadmap to fit that expectation. And that will be a vicious circle that we don't want to see if you're trying to do a long-term value bet. But still, we are looking out to a lot of blockchain startups from China, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong these days that might have a very strong technical barriers. Mostly are from existing startups, actually.
Existing startup. It's cool. We just know that you're kind of a strategic advisor of Techila.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, XCapital, XLab. So, how is it? I mean, why Techila and how it is? I mean, what is special about Techila?
Okay. So, first of all, as correspond to the last answer, we are looking for some founders or startups that come from existing business that already have a very stable or multiple revenue streams.
Yeah.
Because we don't see ICO as a new type of startup.
Yeah.
We see it only as an alternative way of doing fundraising.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means the factors that determine whether a startup would survive over time or become successful, become a unicorn, are still those fundamental metrics that we use to evaluate startups in the United States.
Nice. Yeah. So Techila is a kind of invention in a kind of platform which still existed. I mean, it is there. It's a kind of reform and more scalable platform in terms of media and social media and also crowdfunding as well. So you see Techila in that way, or like beside of being a kind of existed entity, do you see that Techila, that it could be a good concept in future? I mean, for like a startup or anybody who wants to have their project to be funded in this platform?
Yeah. So I see Techila as a startup which find a certain core features to utilize in the blockchain. I will just briefly mention in here.
Yeah.
The first one would be open ledger.
Yeah.
The second one would be minting. Means that everything is backward traceable, non-reversible, distributed computing, decentralized mechanism, and last but not least, tokenization model. And I think Techila is specifically utilizing the last two.
Yeah.
First of all, Techila find like a sweet spot in the current social media in terms of some of the user behaviors, say their profiles, their posts being liked, being shared, being comment.
Yeah.
But those kind of behaviors aren't really quantified and be given rewards such as tokens.
Yeah.
That is one entry point.
Yeah.
The second one is it is using a decentralized mechanism. In this case, it is more like crowdsourcing or crowdfunding perspective to track people on a very high quality content. In this case, it would be video streaming. Right? And yeah, we think that there is huge potential in leveraging these two blockchain core features to drive another new high in the existing startups.
Nice, awesome. So as we are running out of time, so the last question that we ask from every single guest that we have,
Okay.
as we are doing our media for innovation and technology and entrepreneurship. So we ask our guests, what is your message to all entrepreneurs, not only in China, out of China? What is your message for them?
First of all, I come from a research background.
Yeah.
I don't define myself as a successful serial entrepreneur.
Why not?
The most successful entrepreneurship-like stuff that I've been doing solo or individually would be the trade bot that turns out to be 200x,
Nice.
or the over 20x investment we have made as a team, XCapital, in terms of the token investment.
Yeah.
But if I could provide some personal, sending out some personal message
Yes. Yeah.
to all those potential unicorn serial entrepreneurs, this is a hard question, actually. Usually, I'll take a lot of time to think about this.
Yeah.
But I would say, usually it would be finding an area that maybe you are not most experienced with, but your motivation, drive, and passion is 3x more than other players in this field.
Beautiful.
Which can help you to survive, just like in the cryptocurrency market.
Not giving up and survive. And
when there is bear market, when it is bull market, that everybody could be successful.
Yeah.
Everyone could talk a lot about how they success. They could go back and to pull out some successful factors. Talk about that. But in the bear market, or when the market isn't going well, or when the trend of this specific industry isn't going very well, I think it is your somehow more than passion. It might be your starbornness in this field that you are deeply passionate, that could help you survive and then drive a new high.
It's beautiful. Poseidon Ho, managing partner of XLab and XCapital. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you much.